Welcome, welcome. Trickle on in, family. Y'all trickle on in. There we go. I just had to do my quick sound check. How's everybody doing this fine Friday afternoon? Yes, do not adjust your stream, do not adjust your device. We are multi streaming yet again. We are now broadcasting live across the entire Hoodooverse. We are broadcasting on YouTube, Instagram, and X. It's still Twitter. Well, how y'all doing this fine Friday evening or afternoon, depending on what time it is, wherever you are. Tonight, family, is an episode of the Hoodoo and Haints podcast where we are going to talk about, as the title says, Haints, Hags, and Night Demons. This particular episode was brought about because of a story, as a lot of episodes are. Stories that you guys bring to me or questions that you have, and then it sparks questions that I have or experiences that I have had. And I think it'll make for a good conversation. And if you guys don't recall, I asked everyone, I said, hey, if you would like to share your story on the podcast, then feel free to email it to me. And we are going to lead off with just such an email. Now, with that being said, I'd just like to make a couple of announcements. You know, the church always got to start off with announcements. And no, we're not passing around collecting for the building fund. But I would like to announce that, listen, guys, give me a day and we're going to nail down a day for the next webinar. The next webinar is going to be on oil lamps, how to make them, how to work them. And we will be doing a live in webinar ritual with the spirit known as Annie Christmas. Again, Annie Christmas. So bring along with, I will send out a list of all materials needed prior to the webinar so that you guys can work along with me. And we will be doing the ritual live and together. Those of you who will catch the replay, then feel free to follow along with us when you do watch it, and it'll be just as powerful for you. So bring all the supplies and bring the names of your enemies, and we will do a group working. Amen. Amen. Now, since I am simulcasting here, I don't have the chat for everywhere. Right now, I'm only seeing the YouTube chat. I will open up the other platforms on other devices. Okay, we'll open up the platforms on other devices. So if you do ask a question over on Instagram or over on Twitter, I will see your questions. Okay. So without further ado, y'all, let's start off with the story. And then I'll open up the chat and I will be taking live calls. It's not I'm taking live calls, but if anybody would like to share their story with the things that we're talking about, then feel free to come on up. All right. So the first story that we have comes from Brother Heck. I don't know if you guys remember, it was a few live streams ago. Brother Heck said that he had a story that he wouldn't mind sharing. And so I got the story. I did. He emailed it to me. I got the story, and it's about something that we're talking. It's about this particular topic here. And so it is the story of an old hag entity. So, Brother Heck, please check your Cash App. I did send it to you, and we're going to go forward with his story. Okay? So, so he titled it, Old Hag Entity Tortures Me for Years as a Child in the Real World as a Ghost Entity and in My Dreams. Brother Heck says, this is my account of true events that happened to me as a child of 4 through 7, possibly before that, but my memory doesn't stretch that far back. A little background. I come from Caribbean descent, specifically the Dominican Republic, from both parents, but was born and raised in New York. I had, with no exaggeration, Every single night, the same nightmare of an old hag entity that appeared old and decrepit and was of very dark complexion. Think African witch lady combined with the Wizard of Oz witch, long nose, the whole nine. This entity's goal was to grab me and drag me to a dark space where she would stick her hand inside my guts and, to what I can describe the closest sensation to, physical pain while dreaming. It isn't a regular kind of pain. I describe it as an intense discomfort, as if you were forcibly being tickled with an intense motorized sensation to it and not being able to stop it. Imagine someone tickling you, but instead of laughter, just waiting the person to stop, that their hand is inside you and is vibrating. It was extremely uncomfortable on top of the fear aspect part of it. She wouldn't ever speak and just had this really evil, wicked laugh. It got to the point where I realized if I jumped off things in my dream in order to kill myself, I could wake up. I was aware I was sleeping, but knew this entity was real. So far, what he's talking about here, um, because and if it's what I'm doing, I'm reading it as it's written, but the punctuation is a little inconsistent. So I am trying to um, edit it as I'm reading it. But so far, basically he's having a dream that he knows is, there's something else to it. And it's of, a witch lady, a hag, that comes to him at night. And the sensation is odd because, and we'll get to it later, because he describes it as pain, but not really pain. It's like intense vibrating, almost tickling, but inside of him. Pay attention to this. And there are a couple of things we're gonna touch on here. Okay. And he's lucid dreaming as well. Lucid dreaming is when you're not necessarily astral projecting. You're dreaming, but you're aware that you're dreaming. So he said, I was aware I was sleeping, but knew this entity was real. The entity that managed to bar windows in order for me to remain asleep, so she can continue to torture me. So he knew that he was dreaming. So if he would climb up to a high place and jump off, then he was aware that hitting the ground, he would wake up. And so what the entity started doing was the entity started barring the windows so he couldn't jump out of anything and wake himself up. In essence, it was trapping him in the dream. And I see everyone in the chat. I'm just trying to continue the story, so I'll greet everyone as soon as I'm done with the story, okay? Another point, these dreams were always extremely lucid and were unable to be told apart from reality. Perfect example, I would fall asleep watching TV on the couch and my uncle would carry me off to bed. I would never realize I fell asleep because my dream starts as me watching TV, as I've always been doing, sitting Indian style. Then I would hear her laugh, and she had the power to paralyze me, and then she dragged me under a bed and began to torture me. I would also see her as a ghost. She liked to appear when my mother's back was turned, and when I would scream and point, disappear, just in time to give off the appearance that I'm crazy. The ongoing spiritual dream battle I faced caused me to naturally control my dreams originally as a defense mechanism, and I've kept it ever since. I always thought everyone could control and be conscious while dreaming, till I learned later on that isn't the case. It finally stopped when one day my rage of being tortured so long caused me to fight back instead of cowering in fear. Then I've never seen her again, but even now as a grown adult, I always expect her to come back, and when I'm lucid dreaming, I fully expect her to make a return, but she never does. Years later, when I was an adult, my older sister tells me that my dad was having an affair with a bruja. And bruja is Spanish for witch. Okay. Ooh, heck. You might want to edit that out, my boy. Anyway, my dad was having an affair with the bruja, and she wanted him to leave my mother, so placed a curse on my mom while being pregnant with me. I concluded that this entity latched onto me directly or indirectly. My mother was Catholic before and now Christian, but my older sister says she would sometimes solicit medicine women and things related to the occult. And while living in the States, she received a warning from a friend that something is after your son and to protect me. This happened during the same time frame I had these experiences. And then he says if I have any questions or whatever, that I can contact him. And I actually forgot until time to do this podcast. So there are a couple of things in here that I want to touch on. Okay, well, let me say hello to everyone. And those of you who are only going to hear this podcast on the audio medium, because we are everywhere that you have your fine podcast. We are on uh, Apple Podcasts, Android Podcasts, Google. Well, no, Google Podcasts. Everywhere you can find a podcast, you will find the Hoodoo and Haints podcast. Just look me up. Okay, but what's going on, Wanderlust? Hey, Shay Monet, thank you so much for joining. I do appreciate you subscribing. Wanderlust Earth Angel, what's going on? Hey, Goddess Soul. Hey, Sharia. Hey, Lasagna. Thank y'all for being channel members. Hey, Brock. Thank you for being a channel member and an amazing moderator. Just an overall good person. Also, Hollywood, how you doing? Hey, Quiet Storm. How are you? Yolanda, what's going on? Ebony, how are you? Thank you for being a channel member. Sean Royal, how are you? Ricky Thompson, what's going on? Thank you for being a channel member. Janet, the artist known simply as Janet, how are you? Thank you for being a channel member as well. Congo 9, what's going on? Honey's Child, Musical Mood Ring, and Lani, thank y'all for being channel members, as well as Big Ice and Celeste. How are y'all? Thank y'all for being channel members. So there's a couple of things here. Hey, Natalie, there's a couple of things I want to touch on here that I don't know if anyone has experienced. I don't know if anyone saw, but there's a couple of things here. First and foremost, if you thank you so much for the cash app, Big Ice, I do appreciate it. And this is something, and if something relates to you in the live chat, please let me know. Please let me know. And if anybody wants to come up and tell their story, you don't have to cam up. You can absolutely cam down if you would like to, or if you just want to call in, we can make that happen. But the first thing is he spoke of the entity dragging him to a dark place. Now, in spiritual different spiritual traditions, there's often been spoke of a night city, and different people who speak about astral projection, demons, and things like that will always speak of the night city. And it is almost like you see on that show Stranger Things, where they talk about the upside down, where it's like a parallel universe to this, but it's extremely dark. Now, whenever I would hear anybody talk about this, I would think along the lines of the African cosmology, where the ancestral realm or the spiritual realm is a very dark place. And y'all have heard me talk about that a lot when I talk about hoodoo and how spirits dwell in a very dark place. And it's not like the movie Ghost, because we watched the movie Ghost, and Patrick Swayze is running around and he's like trying to get Demi Moore's attention. Demi was fine in that movie. He's trying to get Demi. She's aged well too. So he's trying to get her attention, but she can't see them. And sometimes we will think about spirits that way, like they're just here, but we can't see them, and they're just trying to see us. No, the reality, and this is one thing that we know in the spiritual community, in the actual spiritual community, we know that spirits see us the same way we see them. We see them a lot of times as flashes out of the corner of our eye, brief glimpses, the shadow people going by. Well, that's how they see us a lot of times too. That's why things like ancestor altars and things like that are so important, because it allows us to be able to know where the other is, and communicate, kind of like putting our door to the wall. Well, when we talk about the shadow realm, when we talk about the shadow city, as people call it, it's kind of an intermediate and an intermediate space. Okay, it's the space in between the spirit realm and here. And a lot of times when you sleep, that's where we go to dream. And just the fact that she's forcibly taking him there lets me know that this was an entity that was trying to basically steal his energy, his life force. Because, and there's something I don't really speak about, but there is, someone asked me one time, is there a way to, and this sounds so hokey that I almost don't want to say it, but there is a way to steal someone's mojo, steal their magic so that nothing they do will ever work. Assuming, of course, that they're a real worker to begin with, right? But it involves placing your hand against someone's stomach. Now, I'm not going to say what the rest of the working is, but it involves that. And so when he in this story spoke about being drugged to the dark city and that she was constantly putting her hand into his stomach, well, that right there set off, kind of like a red flag for me that this is real and not just something he made up. And also the description of it. See, there was a series of books, how-to books, like how to astrally project, put out by a guy by the name of Robert Monroe, I believe. And I think the book was titled Far Journeys, and the other one was Journeys Out of the Body, where he details step by step how to astral project. And I mean, it's just something that worked for him. And apparently he was able to teach others. His method never worked for me, but maybe it'll work for you. But one thing that he describes is how to send your concentration out. And if you've ever taken my Hoodoo course, then that's one thing we talk about, projecting your awareness. But he speaks about, Joe Brown, thank you for subscribing. He talks about projecting your awareness out. And what he says is you will know you've got it right when your little astral arm that you send out starts to vibrate. It's as if when you tap into that particular area, right? When you tap into that particular area or that particular realm, like you get a vibrating sensation. So I'm ticking all this off as I'm hearing this story. And I'm like, wow, okay, all right. This is something that this is in my wheelhouse as something that I'm familiar with. Okay, it's something in my wheelhouse, and there are other aspects of the story. The fact that he learned how to lucid dream as a defense mechanism. This does not normally happen. Now, some people have an innate gift to lucid dream. Okay, they just control their dreams. Think Freddy, one of them Freddy Krueger movies, where you just learn how to control your dream. That does not always happen. Most people just naturally wake up. Okay, I think this was something that evolved in him. Well, I think one, he had a latent ability to do so. Two, is something that evolved simply because we all have a internal spiritual alarm systems. I've said this a lot. Even if no one knows anything about candles, incense, prayers, any form of spirituality, we have spiritual alarm systems inside of us that we all know when we're being worked on. Like I said, you may not be able to put words to it, but you just kind of feel uncomfortable. You just kind of feel that, something just ain't hitting the way it's supposed to. I just feel off. And we've all felt that way at times where you can't put a finger on it. You just don't feel normal today. You're like, oh, no. And people ask you, what's going on? Like, man, I don't know. I just, And, some of y'all dramatic church folks will be like, ooh, something is just troubling my spirit. But y'all right. Y'all right. And a lot of times, it's not someone actually working on you. It just may be a really strong entity going by, because we will feel when there's a strong entity just passing, or someone's thinking so negatively about you that it's just triggering your alarm system. Hey, Divine Aqua. Hey, Oliver. How's it going? Thank y'all for coming. So I think that what happened with Brother Heck is once he realized that I need to wake myself up, and the entity blocked him from waking up, in essence, it held him inside that realm. Now, when it was time for his body to wake up, he would have woke up anyway. But we all know that time and space are different when you are in the middle place. And that's something y'all may not know. You'll dream about something, then you'll wake up. But has anyone ever had those dreams that seem to last for years? Like, I mean, you done met people, you done fell in love with folks. Anybody ever had a dream where you fall in love with somebody in the dream, and y'all just doggone vibing so hard, and then you wake up and you look who you laying next to, and just mad, like, man, God Almighty. Listen, excuse me. If y'all are laying next to or sit next to your person and y'all listening or watching me together, do not admit to that. Just, oh man, Prophet crazy. Prophet crazy. Hey, Najel, how are you? Just like Prophet crazy. So, those dreams where time and space is distorted, where it seems like you have been gone years almost or days, that's when you are in the middle realm. And that's where this fellow was. He was in the middle realm. And this entity knew enough about it to know that they could just trap him there for what felt like an eternity, but in reality was about the 6, 7 hours that we normally sleep. So that's another thing that kind of got me like, huh. Anyway. Now, it's funny because last night's stream, someone asked about the difference between spiritual oppression and spiritual possession. Oppression is just the activity of the spirit to get you ready for possession. Think about when you got a tough piece of steak, you beat the hell out of it to tenderize it, okay? And then you can chew it and get it down. Well, that's basically what spiritual oppression does. Spiritual oppression is the knocking down of that spiritual alarm system that I was just speaking about. Spiritual oppression is tenderizing you, wearing you down. Spiritual oppression will mess with your sleep. It will mess with your digestion. It will mess with everything to kind of keep you off balance. And once you're off balance enough, then you can be pushed over and then possessed. In actuality, Brother Heck was on the boundary line of oppression and possession. And I knew this from reading because the entity started to appear in his waking life. That's oppression. The entity is truly not there, but it's appearing to him while he's awake. And that's when you're on the borderline of oppression, of possession, full blown possession. You're not even seeing anything. The entity's just looking through your eyes. Okay. Now, in African traditional religions, we practice benign possession, i.e., the Loa, the Orisha, the Mpunga will come down and take possession of your bodies, and then they leave after they've accomplished a mission. And it's an honor, even if they kind of beat you up in the process. It's an honor, even if they kind of beat you up in the process. But a lot of possessions outside of these instances are demonic or negative entity related, and they're definitely not a benign situation, just like Brother Heck is describing here. That's not a benign type of possession. And just the fact that he was able to see the entity in his waking life, well, that lets me know that, yeah, you were borderline being possessed. Now, one of the things here that kind of sparked my attention is when he said he found out that his dad had been kind of diddling the neighborhood witch, and she wanted him to leave his mom, and when he wouldn't, she cast a spell on the mom, but it hit Heck. And the entity was like, okay, well, I'm gonna get that. What this type of entity sounds to me like an intranquil spirit. I know that's where it gets thrown around, but to me it sounds like an intranquil spirit, and it's one that does not want to be given the license to depart. So it's like, let me get strong enough. Let me get as strong as possible so that I can just disobey. I'm not going back. That's why I tell people, don't dabble and don't believe the marketeers when they're sitting there trying to give you these pretty little spells. Has anyone ever read the actual the actual in tranquil spirit spell? Oh, here, I'm gonna find it for you. Now, okay, y'all listen. O in tranquil spirit, you that in hell are wandering and will never reach heaven, hear me. Oh, hear me. I want you to grasp the five senses of, and then you say someone's name. And do not let him rest in peace, neither seated nor standing, walking nor sleeping, that he should think of seeing me, hearing me, tasting me. Whoa, calm down. And touching me, they should find himself as desperate as the waters of the seas and as torn as the wind in the storm until he returns to me. They should run and run until he humbly falls at my feet because nobody will help him. And that neither a divorced woman, nor a married woman, a widow, nor a young woman shall ever love him, but only me and me alone. Then you say his name again. I conjure you before the cross and God Almighty that you are to run after me as the living after the cross and the dead after the light. Amen. Now, the kicker is that people will sell you a little card with that very prayer and a pink candle and some pink oil and some pink incense because they package it as a love spell. But you are seriously sending an entity to torment someone to come back to you. To torment someone to come back to you. Hey, Tarot by Tia, how are you? Hey, T-Gum. Hey, Empress, Queen of Wands. Hey, Denise, what's going on? Hey, Mrs. White, thank y'all for being channel members. Blood Apple, Sage the Queen. Something happened at 33. How are you? One of my favorite people. Hey, Theta. Hey, Sweet Tea Wilson, the proprietor of my favorite juke joint. How are you? So they they package it this way, knowing full well that most people don't understand what they're doing. When you do this working, if you are successful, most people aren't because most people don't know how to get in the right mind frame. All people know is desperation when they're doing some of this. A lot of times, just being honest. When you're doing this, you are snatching someone from a place the Catholics call purgatory. Think about this. Let's just say you are a prison guard. No, let's just say you're the warden of a maximum security prison. And you want lunch, but you have no way of getting lunch. But down the street is McDonald's. You go down, grab one of the inmates and say, look here, I'm going to open this gate and I'm going to let you out. I want you to go down there, get my lunch, and then bring it back. That's what I want. What do you think the likelihood of that happening is? When you open that gate, hey, cutting up with Terry. What do y'all think the likelihood of that happening is? That rascal gonna hit that gate and gonna be on the news. If you see this man, please contact. That's what's gonna happen, right? Unless Earth Living, thank you so much for subscribing. Hey, Hoodoo Mother, how are you? That's exactly what is happening with this in tranquil spirit spell working. Y'all know I don't like the word spell, but that's what y'all understand. You are giving a brief reprieve for a spirit to come out and go do some work. And just like that analogy of the prison guard, if you a big bad mama jamma, then that inmate knows I'm gonna get so much worse if I don't come back. So I'm gonna go down here to this McDonald's, then I'm gonna come back. Maybe he'll let me out again. Okay? Maybe he'll let me out again. But if that inmate has no respect for you, he gone. Well, it's the same thing within tranquil spirit working. If you actually get it to work, one, you never know, because there's not the intranquil spirit. There's only an intranquil spirit. You can do the work in 157 times. You're going to get 157 different spirits, potentially. And you may get one that's going to try your gangster. You know, if you open the gate and somebody is intent on whooping some ass, well, the first ass they see to whoop is going to be yours because you open the gate. Y'all understand what I'm saying? So that's clearly not something that should be just packaged as this pink and frilly love spell, because it's not. Also, there are potentially ramifications. There are potentially ramifications, such as in Brother Hex space, where, and the thing is, I honestly don't feel that he was the target. And as his sister told him, he wasn't. Now, Brother Heck thinks that this hit him because he was in his mom's belly. No, the target was always the mother. But this was visiting him so that in tormenting the child, think about it. What is the easiest way to harm a parent without laying a hand on them? Harm the child. And see, it wasn't really hurting him because in a lot of ways, children are spiritually protected until they get like around 9, 10, 12, somewhere around in there, depending on them, right? It couldn't really touch him, but mentally, he was being tormented. Nothing physical, but mentally he was being tormented. You know, they kind of found a little loophole in the we cannot mess with, you know, the innocence rule. So that's why I would say dabbling. Spiritual dabbling a lot of times leads to something so messed up. Listen, let's read this again. One more time. Or as we say back in the day, one more again. We're going to read this one more again. Just so y'all understand. This right here is often packaged, like I said, with a pink candle, pink oil, pink incense. And it's called the intranquil spirit prayer of all things. O intranquil spirit, you that in hell are wandering and will never reach heaven, hear me. The very first line should get your attention that this is not a love spell, but it's often marketed as that. This is a hex, a curse, plain and simple. O intranquil spirit, you that in hell are wandering and will never reach heaven, hear me. Oh, hear me. I want you to grasp the 5 senses of Joe Blow, and do not let him rest in peace, neither seated nor standing, waking nor sleeping, that he should think of seeing me, hearing me, tasting me, pause, and touching me, pause, that he should find himself as desperate as the waters of the seas and as torn as the wind in the storm until he returns to me, that he should run and run until he humbly falls at my feet because nobody will help him, and that neither a divorced woman nor a married woman, a widow nor a young woman shall ever love him, but only me and me alone. Joe Blow, I conjure you before the cross and God Almighty, that you are to run after me as the living after the cross and the dead after the light. Amen. They even put an amen on that. Great time of day. Great time of day. And you done sent this to somebody you supposedly love. That's the kicker. You supposedly love this person, and you're like, hey, whew. That reminds me, there was a song by, it had that Iggy lady, Iggy Azalea, and Rita Ora, was Black Widow. The song, the chorus, I'm gonna love you until you hate me. Like, that's what it reminds me of. I'm going to love you until you hate me. Like, that is wild. That is wild, right? So, you know, that is actually a common description of a night hag, because night hags and haints are different. One thing that he did not mention Oh, well, let me double check. Let me double check. Mm-mm-mm-mm. He did say that sometimes she would paralyze him, but that's not how Haints work. Haints, a lot of times are attributed to night paralysis. No, sleep paralysis. You know, and we know that that they have said is a it is a normal thing that happens now. You know, it's been scientifically quantified. But one thing that they cannot explain, hey Sherry, one thing they cannot explain is why is it that when people have what they call a witch riding them, a haint, where you're laying there and you can't move, why is it that sometimes you feel like breath on your neck? You feel something just on you. You feel, like you feel a presence there. You feel a presence. Why is that? If it's just your body not being able to move, right? Purple Pixie in the YouTube chat says a boo hag. That is sometimes what we think of a boo hag, you know, but other times we think of it as a haint. Other times we think of it as a haint, and a lot of times, these things are when you look at different spiritual traditions, and I'm going to look at just old school doggone Louisiana voodoo and a lot of Haitian voodoo as well. We talk about the Gede. And the Gede are pretty much just in short, because it's far too complex a topic. But just in short, is the unclaimed ancestors. Because whether it's voodoo, whether it's Orisha traditions, it's a million of them. Candomblé, Lukumi, Isheshe, whether it's an Orisha tradition, or if it's Palo Mayombe, and we are ancestral, venerative traditions. Meaning we venerate our ancestors. But we also understand one thing, that if you don't uplift and serve your ancestors, they grow weak. Okay? They don't go away. You can't die twice. They grow weak, but they can still, but they can't do anything for you. They're too weak to do things for you. But then there are some that get so angry that they're like, listen, I will find light somewhere. I'm not just going to fade away. I'm not going to do that. So they go and find light. They go hang out places where there's a bunch of there's a bunch of energy that they can pinch off of, a bunch of candles. A lot of times they will hang out around churches. When people are just dabbling and lighting candles and stuff, don't even know what they're doing. They ain't follow one of they ain't not going to www.trueconjure.com or anything like that. They just doing things. Well, they pick up energy. Sometimes when y'all grab a pendulum and y'all just hanging the pendulum there, it'll come up and grab, and you like, Uncle Willie, is that you? Man, that ain't your Uncle Willie, but spirits will like, yeah, I'm your Uncle Willie. Because they're getting that attention from you, and that attention energizes them. Then there's another class of ancestral spirits that have grown so angry and been so wild for so long that they forget they were ever human in the first place. Because some possessions are not from true demons. Some possessions are from, for lack of a better term, human spirits that have gone feral. They have been out in the wild, so to speak, so long they forgot they were ever human. And what they'll do is what a haint does. They'll come by, see someone sleeping, because sleep and death are cousins. Sleep and death are cousins. And you're lying there in stasis, and they'll latch on to you. And your spiritual alarm system tries to trigger you and wake you up, but they're there holding on. And you struggle and struggle. You can't move. Because what they do is when we sleep, a lot of times our spiritual self and our physical self kind of go out of alignment a little bit. Okay? You're normally here, but they'll sometimes go out of alignment. And then what happens is they will latch on here or no, latch on here so you can't slide back. And that's why you struggle and struggle. You can't slide back into alignment. You are just stuck. You stuck. But the whole time you are struggling, what do you feel? Panic, anxiety, fear. And that hang is just there. Yeah. Because what I've said is a lot of possessions or hauntings, they're not trying to harm you. They're not trying to harm you. Look, they're not trying to kill the cow that they're getting milk from. But they know if I scare you, that when your adrenaline spikes, your energy output spikes. And here they are with that straw. Look, they, hey, dog, I don't have no straw here. Look, they come along. I ain't using that. And look, for those of you who are only gonna hear this on audio, I messed around and grabbed a raccoon penis bone. I'm not gonna pantomime a straw with that. Absolutely not. But they come up with their straw and energy, wonderful, and they get stronger. A lot of times they'll leave after that. Sometimes they'll stay around. See, this right here is why when you look at a lot of hauntings or a lot of haints, because see, this happens with children a lot. Anyone who has ever experienced sleep paralysis knows that you will experience it more. That little puberty gap, because during little kids, nothing gets terrorized more than a little child. They're unaware of the world. Anything is possible. We know as adults that okay, a lot of things are possible, but not a lot is probable. So I'm probably all right. But a child doesn't know that. So a child gets terrified and they give off a lot of energy. That's one. So if there's children in the house, a lot of times we'll see a lot of hanked activity. Then also there's that second time frame of when we go through puberty. Our bodies are going through a metamorphosis, a change. We are literally becoming something else. It's like a werewolf. We are growing hair. Our bones are stretching. Our voices are changing. We are becoming something totally new. And do you know how much energy is involved in that process? That's why if you got a boy, you're going to be 8 out of house and home. If you got a boy. Because that's all they do is eat when they go through puberty. Eat, 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 eat. And be mad. Eat and be mad. And that's when you'll see a lot that happens during puberty a lot too, where people will have sleep paralysis a lot. Now, as adults, if it happens, it generally happens when we're going through periods of stress. If anybody wants to just think about it, long enough. The last time that you've had sleep paralysis, a lot of times, Empress the Queen of Wands Tarot in the chat says, "Shoo, girls eat too." Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And then they also cry. There's a lot of crying involved in puberty. A lot of crying involved. You don't even know why. and shoot. And it's a lot of mustiness and breath, because little kids, their breath will be hot, but it's something about puberty, boy. You just smelly, So, when we talk about these things, right? There's a lot of energy involved. There's a lot of stress involved. It's all energy related. It is all energy related. And someone in the chat, Dana Omolarisha, said something very interesting in the chat. It says, "What part do you think the lack of rites of passages play in this?" Rites of passage only do so much. I think they prepare us if we're talking about the African cosmology, because rites of passages are different everywhere. Like we think about ancient Sparta, what they went through as a rite of passage was like, man, what? If you ever want to know what the ancient Spartans went through, look it up, and you're gonna be like me and go, what? But I do think that being prepared for the spiritual side of things actually helps keep a lot of things from happening. Dana, that's a good question. You can't stop it, but there's an old saying: to be forewarned is to be forearmed. So if I know that this could potentially happen, I'll be waiting for it. But no, we don't tell our kids, hey, if you ever feel like you can't move or anything, just focus on your big toe or your pinky finger. And if you could just move one little finger, you'll wake right up. And that's something we as adults know if we experience sleep paralysis. If I can just wiggle one body part, I'm gonna wake up. I'm gonna come up out of it, and we do. We come up out of it. And so, yeah, I think if we actually educated the kids, but one thing I say about the spiritual community is that we are very unaware. We're very non-self-aware. We are very non-self-aware, especially about how small we are. The spiritual community is a very small place. People may not think that, but it's really a very small place. And so the things that affect us, I mean, it happens across the board, but no one will believe us. And when we talk about rites of passage, the rest of the world will look at us like we're crazy. That doesn't mean we shouldn't incorporate some of these things, but we should be aware that our kids will go to school and hear something to the contrary, possibly from the people in charge. Brian, how's it going, buddy? Thanks for being a channel member. Hey, God's child, how are you? Judy, how are you? So I am definitely open if anybody wants to relay some stories that they have had of Haints and Hags. But in the time being, let's take a brief break, and we'll be right back after these studio messages. Okay, I am back. Testing one, two, three. I am so sorry that I have not. I didn't pop over and look at my folks over on Instagram. I've got everything up over here. Now there. Now I can see everybody almost. What's up, Instagram? Hey, Soul of a Moon. How are you? What's up, Kato? Hey, Rag. I know it just says rag, but I know those are your initials. The Southern Witching Hour asked an awesome question, or not a question, but Southern Witching Hour over on Instagram said, "I was a sleepwalker as a child. Is this related?" Sleepwalking is often spiritual in nature. Remember, I said that sleep and death are cousins, right? Sleep and death are cousins. So what happens is your actual okay, when people sleepwalk, they're still somewhat tethered, and so it's normal. Remember, I said we will oftentimes go out of alignment, but we're still laying there. Sometimes people go. Sometimes people go out of alignment and then get up and go walking, and they're dragging. In essence, you're dragging your physical body behind you. So everyone sees you walking in your sleep, but if they could see your spirit is probably like 2 or 3 feet behind you. So it's two of y'all walking, one in the spirit and one in the flesh. Let me see if I can do something here. Hold on. Anybody know how to? Wait, hold on. Wait. I think I got this. I think I got this. And then, boom. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. All I see is me. Look, I wish y'all could see the beauty that I'm looking at right now. Literally, all I see is me on two screens. Oh man, this is beautiful. I'm just I'm just messing with y'all. Okay, so let's see. Let's take a couple of questions from the chat here. See if anybody wants to tell a story. Storm L says, "I wonder if that's why I haven't had sleep paralysis in a few years. It happened so much eventually that I learned to breathe through it and hit the bed. My fear became more of a curiosity in what I was seeing and experiencing." Now, there's a difference between sleep paralysis and and astral projection, and it could have easily been. Well, sleep paralysis, you can't move, and you'll sometimes feel oppression. You'll feel spirits around you. Astral projection is when you're up or you're somewhere else and you slam back into the bed. It's often been theorized that one of the causes of that falling dream that we all have, where you just like slamming down, is because we've projected up and then we fall back into our bodies. So that's what happens there. Nicola, how's it going? XLMNF says, "I can lucid dream at will. There's also been times where I woke up in parallel universe or in the past. It was very trippy." And again, you know, a lot of times that if you sometimes lucid dreaming will kind of sideways slide, cha cha slide into astral projection, where you're lucid dreaming and then poof, off you go. Then you're spirit walking. Okay. All right, guys. Well, if no one has a story to share, it looks like we have reached the 1 hour mark, and so this is going to be a pretty good podcast. You'll be able to listen to it for 1 hour or whatnot. All right. And what I want to do is this. If you guys can, do me a favor, email your experiences to me, and it will be an excellent or any paranormal experience. We could do a follow up to this. Oh, I've got one here, so we're gonna keep on going here for a little while. But still, you can email me at papa_lou@outlook.com. and we can go ahead and we'll go through your boo hag haint experience. Hey, Pagan Prince 55. Now, there was a comment that I missed, and I love hearing from other traditions. Hoodoo Mother said it's called Kushma here in Cajun country. Okay, the boo hag is called Kushma here in Cajun country. I've got yours on pause, not on pause, but I've got a pin in yours, Yolanda. I did get your story, and it's going to be for another episode. It's going to be for another episode. All right. Now, Alexis H said, I had a strange experience in my early 20s. I laid down in bed to go to sleep, and as I was drifting off, I felt something grab my ankles and then begin to crawl up my legs. It felt like hands. I pulled the covers up over my head and then yelled for whatever it was to go away. I was scared to look at it. After I told it to leave, I felt the hands ease away. Okay, so when this happens, were you awake? Did anybody come running in the house? Sometimes when stuff like this happens, we don't know if we're awake or not. You know, it can happen where you are on like the borderline, so you don't know if you're awake, if you're sleeping, or anything like that. Now let me check, see here. But okay, guys. So now I'm going to officially end the podcast. I will try to get on later on tonight. If I get on later on tonight, we'll probably go over to kick.com. You know, you can follow me over on kick.com. It's www.kick.com/the broken prophet. It's the whole thing, the broken prophet. We can talk about any and everything over on Kick, and y'all know what I want to talk about tonight. Tonight, over on Kick, I want to talk about how people get bamboozled by marketing here in the spiritual community. And I'm gonna give you guys some examples that I have seen, and one that was brought to my attention today by someone who was coming to me, and I'm like, and they were talking about another spiritualist, and that's one thing I don't do. I don't I don't talk about other spirituals. I'll give my opinion. I will absolutely give my opinion about another spirituals, but I don't gossip about them. But I did give this person some tips, and I said, well, it sounds to me that you were trying to judge their spiritual ability based off of their marketing. And this is someone, big name that I'm pretty sure a lot of you have heard. Like, I'm pretty sure you guys are trying to judge their spiritual ability based off of their marketing. Oh, well, we lost Instagram. Well, I'll go ahead and cut that off anyway. I'm going to cut that off anyway. All right. So, family and friends, this has been, I feel like it was a good episode of the Hoodoo and Haints podcast. Y'all let me know how y'all felt about it. Feel free to email me or message me on WhatsApp some topics that you would like for us to explore, and then we will talk about that. I think the next episode, Storm L will be on Shadow People. It'll be on Shadow People and other awesome, awesome types of spiritual phenomenon. So that being said, I will see y'all tonight on kick.com. The link has been put into the chat. Please go follow me there. VI Memphis, I see you already did it. Follow me over on Kick, and we will be there. God's child, feel free to email me. Okay? Papa_Lou at outlook.com. Papa_Lou at outlook.com. Okay? But with that being said, you guys have been amazing. Thank y'all so much. And we will see you next time on the Hoodoo and Haints podcast. Profit out.